Our second lecture is also by Hans on OpenDataConnected, how a test import run escalated into a community. Sounds very interesting, so let's welcome him again with another warm applause, and the stage is yours.
All right, testing, 1, 2, 3, and stuff. Yes, awesome. Thanks again for sticking around and even returning after my previous role. I love to reuse materials, and I don't think that your organization ever gets enough praise for what they do, so thanks again to CLUC. You are absolutely awesome, and yeah, feel free to applaud about that, because then at least I hear some applause. So, a little bit about me and what we do and why it's relevant that this OpenDataConnected thing happens. So, I'm Hans de Raad, I'm owner of Open Innovations. We are a company that works with and contributes to a lot of open source projects. And what we specialize in is data management. We have an RNI platform, we call it RNI, which is essentially able to look at any type of data structure or database schema, and on top of the data structure, it generates REST API endpoints, UI elements, full end-to-end tests. Please come in, the more the merrier. Sharing is caring and stuff. So, our data management platform is mainly used in the pharmaceutical and medical domain. We allow organizations to kind of model their own data structures, and then we generate an app on top. Now, last year, we re-implemented, or actually refactored, our spreadsheet import components. So pharmaceutical labs love spreadsheets. They do calculations in them, they do inventory management of samples and whatnot in them. But as you all know, spreadsheets are the root of all evil. So we actually help organizations get out of the spreadsheet credit tablet phase into a relational database. So we have a spreadsheet importer component. Now, to test this spreadsheet importer component, we decided to look at some open data sources, because the mayor of Zagreb, Tomislav Tomasovic, or TomTom, he announced the availability of a couple of hundred open data sets last spring. And they were very enthusiastic about it, and of course, so were we, because if people are enthusiastic about data, then that makes us enthusiastic. And we decided to just pick about 130 different data sets in spreadsheet format and import them in our RNI platform. Now, this was absolutely great success, because it turned out that of those 130 data sets, of course, there's a lot of overlapping data. You have street addresses, cadastre information, you have a lot of basic utility elements that are used. But what we also found is an example that in the city of Zagreb, they had a list of bicycle paths. And the list of bicycle paths, the roads on which those bicycle paths were supposed to be, didn't actually correspond with the list of roads in general in Zagreb. So why is that? Well, first of all, notations. So you have ulica, or ul, or you have some other word that is abbreviated with trg, TRG. Sometimes it's written out, sometimes it's not, so it's hard to match that data. So what we started doing was analyzing the data, and we found dozens and dozens of inconsistencies in not mapping data. We had some latitude, longitude information in some spreadsheets, and when we actually mapped that into OpenGIS, it turned out to be in the desert of Yemen. Now, I'm not really sure if Zagreb is planning a suburb there, but probably not. So what that actually turned out to be was just internal IDs of whatever system it was generated out of. And this is a really common problem with open data. And the next speaker after me will probably go into that as well, as it's their bread and butter, semantic interoperability and whatnot. So what we decided to do, because, you know, being Dutch means that we can complain about everything, and then some more. but usually we also feel that we have to do something, or at least maybe that's my genetic deficit, but I felt that just bitching about data quality really wasn't a useful thing. So I decided that we would reach out back to the Open Data Bureau, the City of Zagreb, the Open Data Initiative, thank you for being here, and a lot of other parties, and we came up with OpenDataConnected. Note the word connected in the name to actually make sure that we provide a network between data publishers, data intermediaries, hello, that's us, and data users. So another problem with open data, as we see it, is what very often happens with open data is there's a lot of noise about the publication, hooray, we have open data, then we have a hackathon, somebody builds an app with some open data. Usually what happens is then one of the sponsors of the event then hires the person who builds the best app, and you will not hear anything about it evermore. So we wanted to do it differently. And also, as I mentioned, open innovations is all about open source and open standards. And we were actually questioning why not also fit open data in there, because it's like a holy trinity. You have open source software to publish open data, you have open standards, which actually are the formats in which open data is being published, and then you have the open data itself. And the best part about this open data is you don't just have software that does stuff, you don't just have a standard that defines something, you actually have data that you can do something with. So this is what we went on to do with OpenDataConnected. So we had a couple of meetings online. December 7th, we had our kickoff, in which we had representatives of the Croatian Ministry of Health, some German open data enthusiasts. We had some people from Albania, Montenegro, we had a Portuguese person, and we started chatting with them and concluded that, why actually not include open data in a conference like CLUC? Because it's about open source, it's about open standards. Why not also include open data? So that's how this came into being. And today, we'll actually have the one thing that I just mentioned that's normally not that useful, because we have a hackathon today. But the nice thing about this hackathon is that actually HR Open, which is the Croatian open source agency of which we are a partner, will publish all the source code of the solutions as well as documentation about it. And we really invite other parties to keep an eye on the HR Open GitHub throughout the day. And basically we want to maintain this momentum. So, and actually I'm pleasantly surprised at how many people are here. Apparently interested in open data. So, conclusion, OpenDataConnected kind of happened as an accident. We imported 130 spreadsheets and figured that we should do something about that. One thing that we will also do, if anybody's interested, is we will open up our RNI instance publicly to whomever is interested in working with the data. So instead of you having to download 130 spreadsheets from the Croatian government, you can actually use our RNA instance with a REST API and a UI to browse through the data and reuse it. So in case anybody's interested, reach out to me and I'll happily provide you with some credentials. Yes, we have a winner. Awesome. And I really would like to interact with you. So we have about 5 minutes left. Anybody here does anything with open data already? If so, how? What are you doing with it?
OpenStreetMap.
OpenStreetMap, yes.
Geospatial processing and stuff like that.
I think that's an awesome example. Yeah, I agree. It's also the most common example, I think, other than democratic transparency. I love, in example, what they're doing in the Ukraine since 2010, where they have this volunteer organization verifying every public tender that gets processed, and as a result, several hundred people went to jail. So, this, hooray for open data. Anyone else?
You're open for questions?
Always.
Okay, great. You have still 15 minutes left, so it's not a problem.
15? Oh, awesome. I'm very efficient today.
Quite, yeah.
Now, I really would like to have a conversation because the thing is, we came up with OpenDataConnected as a platform, and we actually want to hear from you if you have any ideas or interests in where we can take this next. Because what we did now is, as I mentioned, we brought parties together, and today we'll have this hackathon with the Croatian government. A number of universities are involved. They'll give prizes. Probably people will get hired, I hope so. But are you working with open data? If so, what do you need? Because I'm talking to a number of urban planning organizations that have big problems into consuming open data sets because the formats are so disparate and badly specified. So what we're doing to help them with is our data management platform. We import that data from the spreadsheet or PDF or Clay tablet or whatever it's written on, and we provide them with a REST API into this open data. We're also part of Interoperable Europe, which is a project by the European Commission stimulating semantic interoperability standards on open data and all that. But give me something. What should we continue? Yes, you.
What standards are you using? What open standards?
For open standards?
Sorry. What open standards are you using?
Well, at the moment, we mainly publish data through an Open API compatible REST API, but we actually use DGAT as well for linked data. We use JSON LD for linked data sets, but the problem with those is that we first have to normalize the data and correlate the data before we're even able to link it. And we find that many open data sets are more or less human generated. So the street name problem, in example, that's a very clear thing where people are just maintaining their own little tunnel vision of reality and not really correlating with other parties like, you know, Cadastre. We have these organizations that keep track of stuff because, you know, that's what they do. And instead of actually using Cadastre information, somebody is just entering street names manually in some system. So we use open standard like DGAT, Open API, JSON LD. But we find actually that there are a lot of problems with the data quality before we even get to the publication. Does anybody has experience also with that type of challenge? You seem to have an interest in open data. Do you by any chance work for the Open Data Initiative? Such a coincidence.
Yes, I work for the Open Data Institute. But before that, so I started in October. Before that, I was working for national mapping agencies of Europe in publishing and releasing open data.
Okay.
So there is a really nice platform called Open Maps for Europe where you can get authoritative national mapping data and it's all harmonized. The scale is not as good as OpenStreetMap, but there is another project that has just started to do that. So you can then start to consume that. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. There's another person who has a question. I'm baffled. Please.
We found a solution
Yes.
for those variations in street names, like using AI, maybe.
Yeah, we use stuff like Soundex or Levenstein distance, and we tokenize input sentences, and we kind of compare them. It's not even AI, it's just basic heuristical analysis, which is also easily usable if you have a lot of repeated issues. Another thing that we also do is we sometimes for importing data sets use Bayesian filters for classification, because what you do with spam filtering, essentially you can do on any text, extracting tokens and adding elements in there. But for simple deviations, database functions like Soundex or Levenstein, they're actually perfect. Do you know them? Look them up. I had another slide with some awesome penguins, so I'm just going to show it. By the way, all these images are, of course, AI generated and yada yada. So, anyone else?
Spatial data.
Spatial data.
Do you have any available?
Hi.
Oh, too close. I'm interested in spatial data. Did you get any to your system or?
Yeah.
Yes, great. Because a lot of years ago I started trying to get the spatial data from the government, but it was hush, top secret, military secret, stuff like that. 15 years ago. But things change, and I fell out of. I didn't check what happened in the last 2 years, but they said the licenses changed. So I guess it's good, but I want to cooperate with you to get everything we can out of the government.
Please, yes, I fully support getting stuff from the government instead of them taking my money for taxes, so yeah.
Everything is available online, but the licenses were
I agree.
forbidden.
This is such a nightmare. The reason, in example, why we cannot make our RNA instance publicly available in general is because some of the open data licenses don't actually allow us to republish that data outside of our own organization. I mean, I'm going to shoot myself in the head for this kind of bullshit.
And imagine we need it publicly available with appropriate license for OpenStreetMap.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
it's another kind of nightmare.
I really fail to understand how any governmental agency in their right mind, which of course is a question on its own, but is actually publishing data in an open presumption and then applying a license on it that it actually not allows it to be used. It's like, Do we have another question, my dear?
Sorry. With the Open Data Directive, there are now high-value data sets that have to be released as open by EU 27. So they should be coming, if not already available. Slowly.
I mean, it is a slow process. The thing with open data publishing, of course, is that most of the organizations publishing the data don't really have a direct interest in whatever happens with that data on their own. So they don't really see the urgency of actually having to publish that data, which also happens, like the example I gave about spatial data plotting into the Yemen desert. Very obviously, nobody ever took an interest in it. So, another question. This is going really well. I like it. Interaction.
Regarding to the spatial data, we're actually coming from the government, government company, and from the 1st of January 2023, the internet page where you actually had to use captcha to download sort of documents has changed. Okay. And from the 1st of January, we actually receive a huge amount of data because people are actually trying to pull data from us. So it's actually showing us that there is a huge community that is actually needing those data.
Nice.
So this is actually a good news. And regarding to you, it's actually, I don't know what you're referring, but it was regarding to the catastrophe, probably. Yes? Okay.
Yeah. Well, another thing that's happening at the moment is...
House numbers, spatial register.
Yes.
That is also in the ISPO system, which is publicly available.
Yeah,
It's publicly available, but the license was prohibitive.
Yes, but the license now is changed actually. So.
Great!
Awesome. Great success.
That is the reason we are getting more and more, I will not call it attack, but we are experiencing more and more load, which we did not expect.
So you mean somebody's actually using that data?
Yes.
Yes. Because we have overload from central Netherlands or something like that with
I
which
confirm nor deny.
actually it was some kind of open spatial firm, which we actually did manage to lock it with the IP address and everything.
Okay.
But the problem is we cannot allow that because our system doesn't work then, so we need to crash the gate,
Understand.
open it again, but it's just like stop the data mining.
Sure. It makes sense that you throttle certain requests. I mean, open data doesn't mean that a party using it continuously needs to hammer your server.
Yes, and I would also like to mention, because it's been 10 years since the Aaron Schwartz passed away. So this is a good time to actually reflect at what actually he did with a lot of things regarding to the open justice system in the United States of America and regarding to the academic papers.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's another topic, like fair verification of study data, research. But at the moment, there's another initiative going, like Gaia-X, the data spaces initiative within Europe. It's interesting. You know, you have publicly open data, and then you have data that is more or less personalized, but very relevant if you correlate it with open data for like medicinal research. So we now with Gaia-X also have the ability to have like semi-open data spaces in either a pseudonymized or anonymized manner, using real-world data in clinical trials. Another fantastic example, yeah. And I can see that you will have an offline continuation. Yeah, this is awesome.
One thing to prevent the stuff like overflooding their servers, we do some stuff to help the organizations.
Okay.
The city of Zagreb, the city of Rijeka, the city of Knin gave us the spatial data, gave us the raw data, so we host it on our servers to prevent load on the official servers, because I know what OSM geeks can do to spatial data.
Cool. There are multiple aspects in that. You know, it's the way that some open data is being published. I mean, if you just have 130 separate JSON files, if you actually integrate that and publish it through a REST API, then you kind of provide this microservice for other entities to reuse it, which they will then do. But of course, it's not necessarily the responsibility of the party who publishes the open data to support your commercial model into, let's say, 100,000 queries on that data. So yeah, caching, buffering, and whatnot makes perfect sense. Okay. Cool. Anybody else has an idea of what to do with open data, and anybody uses it? I'm pretty sure that you actually all do, but maybe not realize. There's a question. I think you will have your own session on the next...
About using open data. When there was an earthquake in 2020, the guys managing the GIS system used OpenStreetMap data because we mapped all the buildings in the affected area, because they couldn't get... the official data was too dirty.
I think that Hans was very happy with that you did that. Like being transparent about what they did after the earthquake. But sorry, I had to. Yes, open data, that's it. It's amazing, best data ever. All right, cool, I'm actually on time. I mean, I'm normally known for rambling on forever, but let me just not do that today. Thank you for being here, and I'll happily hand over the stage to the person who actually knows about open data instead of a person who just walked into it, which is me. So, no pressure. Here's the expert. Thank you.